Hi, and welcome to the New Year Burgess Crew podcast. Today I'm chatting with Lorraine, one of our fantastic yacht managers here at Burgess.
It's very varied, and that's the thing I love about it. Always learning. We were just talking this morning about how you think you know the job, and then sort of every other day there's something new that you've got to learn that you've never come across before.
I've worked with Lorraine for a few years now, and I was so pleased when she agreed to talk to us. She's also hosted a number of these podcasts, so it felt really right that we finally did a podcast together. We talk about her life on board, her move ashore, and what that transition felt like. And we talk about day-to-day life working in yacht management, specifically her role as yacht manager and what that involves. It's a super open, honest chat with loads of insight for anyone thinking about moving ashore and wondering what comes next. Hello, Lorraine.
Hi, Lorena. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Good. Good to see you.
And you. This is a very strange podcast for me because normally we're talking to people that we've met once or twice, but we know each other quite well now, Lorraine. I mean, how long have we worked together for?
I've been at Burgess over 4 years and often obviously come and sit next to you in the London office when the opportunity presents. So, yeah.
It's talking to somebody that I know already. So I'm hoping that this is going to be just like a really lovely chat about you. So you are working at Burgess as yacht manager and joined us 4 years ago. Before that, what did you do?
So I came to Burgess as a yacht manager, and in fact I've always been in yachting. It wasn't my intention when I left university. It was just something that I fell into and have stayed in. So I first came across yachting. I was studying French and business, and I was at a business school in Nice, and I met yachties then, and this was at the end of during my second year at university. So I thought that sounded like something that I could get into, might pay off my overdraft, have a bit of fun in the summer. So I did a couple of summers after my second and third year at university. And then when I graduated, much to my parents' horror at the time, I headed to Antibes and got my next job and proceeded to stay there with the same yacht actually for 4 years. So yeah, that's how I got into yachting.
Amazing. And what did you do? What was your role on board?
So I was on the interior. I did have a brief dalliance with nannying on board, but that was a lot of hard work. It was a family with 5 children, and yes, I saw what the stewardess was doing, and I thought that was probably more suited to me. Not that I had any problem working with the children. It was just a lot, and it was you can't really. There were no breaks or anything because you were with them from when they woke up till when they went to sleep. So yeah, then I was a junior stewardess initially and worked my way up to second stew.
So 4 years at sea in total.
4 years and a couple of summers, yeah.
That's quite a length of time, isn't it? So what made you decide to come ashore?
I think it was various things. I think I had a partner ashore at the time, so that was a big factor. I didn't necessarily want to go away in the summer. But the main thing for me was that I couldn't plan things. And lots of my friends were getting married. They were planning holidays or trips away or weekends. There were sort of some big life events that I wanted to attend. And after a couple of those got cancelled last minute, because you're standing by a lot of the time, I decided I wanted to have a bit more planning involved in life, and I wanted to be able to plan weekends and plan the future and holidays and things like that. I was also quite concerned, weirdly looking back, but about being offshore at the time and not paying into any sort of medical system, which at 27 at the time seemed a bit crazy. But I thought, for my future, I wanted to start paying into some kind of medical system to protect me later.
Very sensible, Lorraine. And also something that crew don't really think about very often. So it's something that we do try and remind crew about paying, the importance of paying their national social security so that they do have medical cover. But that's a whole other topic. So what was it like coming ashore?
So I'd been in Antibes for that time. So I think at the time, by that point, I'd realised that I wanted to stay in the south of France. It was an area that I liked a lot, a place that I liked a lot, and I wanted to stay there. So I wanted to try and find something that kept me there. So initially I worked in a villa for a summer, but also I then went to work in a yacht chandlery. So the chief officer on the vessel that I had worked on, he'd gone to work for a yacht chandlery, and he kept saying to me, if you want to come ashore, there might be something for you. So I went and worked in quite a busy, well-known chandlery, a yacht chandlery in Antibes, buying engineering parts, as it turns out. And I did that for a couple of years, but obviously that was all it was ever going to be really there. I wanted something that was a bit more varied. So I went to work for a large brokerage house in Antibes. And really, when I took the job, which was ISM, ISPS assistant, I think. It was a foot in the door kind of thing. I didn't really know what I wanted to do, but I didn't expect it to necessarily be yacht management. But actually, the first couple of years, they put me through a lot of training. I had some really good people who taught me a lot, and yeah, here I am, still in yacht management.
So it's just a natural transition.
A natural progression. Yeah,
brilliant. I mean, we've had quite a few people that have come ashore from yachts, and it's such an active role that you have on board, such a physically active role, that they've come ashore and they have really struggled with actually shore life, which is sat basically at a desk all day, and the 9 to 5 and the going home. They've actually quite struggled with that side of it. Did you find that, or were you quite?
I think I was really ready, and I wanted to use my brain in a different way to how it had been used on board. And that's not to say that it wasn't very active when I was on board. Of course it was, but yeah, in a different way. And I kind of wanted the structure. I wanted the 9 to 5 or 9 to 6, whatever it was. I think the transition that I found the most difficult was the financial aspect. So possibly, and this can be a warning to those of you in yachting who are not saving enough, I possibly didn't put enough aside during that time. And obviously I lived life to the full as crew on board, but in hindsight, it would have been better to be a bit more organised about managing money, because I found, for a good few years, I found that a challenge. Suddenly paying rent, paying all the bills, even your food, for example, actually having to budget, and I hadn't really had to do that before. So that was something that was a bit of a shock. But in terms of the job itself, I think I was ready, and I think it made me ambitious in the sense that I wanted to possibly earn more money than the initial role that I took, and I wanted to climb up the ladder a little bit to get back to where I was almost in terms, financially, because we weren't paying tax beforehand, and it was sort of pre-social security and all the rest of it as well. So everything that sort of went into your bank was yours, and it was learning how real life isn't always like that. Obviously, things have moved along in yachting, so I think it's changed since then.
Yeah, no, again, we've done a couple of podcasts on the financial side of it, and I mean, is it a surprise when you come ashore and you realise exactly just how much life ashore costs? And
yeah, I mean, when I took the first role, I knew what I was going to get paid, and you think it's fine until you start making all the deductions from that. Yeah, it was a bit of a shock.
It's funny, isn't it? I guess it's a bit of a bubble on board where you forget maybe what life ashore is like.
100%, particularly when, I hadn't got any experience of the workplace other than being crew. I'd gone straight from university into that. So I'd never really earned money and lived ashore. It was that transition as well. You didn't have a chef to cook for you and all the rest of it. It was a bit of a shock. It was almost like I sort of left home at 27 in a way.
Yeah.
In reality, it happened before that. But in terms of living a normal life, yeah, it started at 27.
So how long did it take you to get settled into normal life?
I think by the time I was 30, at 30 I bought an apartment in Antibes, and I think I got control of everything by then, and I'd progressed a little bit and I knew my direction a little bit more. But yeah, it definitely took 2 or 3 years to kind of really see where I wanted to go and stay and things.
Do you miss anything about living on board, life on board?
Yeah, I mean, I'm lucky enough that I get to spend a lot of time on yachts, not necessarily as crew, but I think the thing that I would miss the most is being at sea when it's nice and calm, it's a beautiful day, the sun rises, sunsets, being anchored, whether you've got guests on or not, in a tiny bay that you would never access otherwise, with turquoise water and all the rest of it. That aspect I would definitely miss.
Yeah. I mean, I've never done it. I've never worked at sea. I think there's elements of it that sound gorgeous like that, but I also do love the structure of a day. So I think I would very much struggle with that. Just lack of schedule, I think.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you have to be adaptable. Days are varied, but at the end of the day, it was the lack of planning, that I was beginning to struggle with. And there were aspects of the job that I loved. So I loved the service side, and I loved the laundry even, because you got to be by yourself, have your music on, but I didn't like the detailing. Now, there's plenty of people that love detailing, but that was not for me. And if I think of going back, or, I had friends then ask me to day work in later years when they came into port, and it was just it was the part that I couldn't do anymore.
So when you first started thinking about coming ashore, did you have an idea of what you could do, what jobs you could do? Because I mean, yachting is quite niche, isn't it? Was it an easy transition to find another job that the skills that you gathered on board the boat that you could use ashore, or was it quite hard to think about what could I do ashore?
I think naturally for me, geographically, I was looking at working in something, because obviously on where I was based had a lot of supporting companies. And for me, the natural choice was to go with one of them. And then I did start looking at, because I'd done a business degree and French degree, I started looking at the business park up near us and applied for a few jobs there. But ultimately, honestly, the minimum wage in France was quite low. You start quite low. Even the yachting and shore-based companies paid better than sort of the roles that I was trained to do up in the business park. So yeah, I think there's so many options out there now. I think, wherever you might be based, whether it be particularly online options, there's people going to all sorts of different things. I've had former crewmates who are in crew recruitment, they created their own sports side of things. It might be Pilates, it might be osteopathy.
Yeah.
People who've come from crew and created their niche depending on their training, depending on their interests, people who give financial advice, all sorts of things. I think really, the world is your oyster. But for me personally, I took advantage of the companies that were already there. And, it was a cold calling at the beginning. But I think, most companies are interested in someone who's got experience at sea because they've got an understanding of what the industry requires.
So in terms of the skills that you bring ashore, what are they? What are the skills that the crew on board build that can help them ashore? I mean, specifically in yacht management, because you're a yacht manager now. What skills did you bring ashore that helped you in yacht management?
I definitely think the adaptability, being adaptable and changing with expectations, changing with the program on a last minute basis, it definitely helps with yacht management. Because no 2 days are the same. What you've prioritised for your day might get changed at the last minute. That would be the same as working on board.
Yeah, yacht management is a very varied role. Like you said, no 2 days are the same, and certainly in crew management it's the same. So tell me about your day as a yacht manager. What does your day look like? What does a typical day look like?
I don't actually think there's a typical day in yacht management. I think there's typical times of the year, from October we start budgeting for the following year. In January, trying to get the budgets over the line. Either side of the summer, we might be doing a lot of audits and writing up the audits, and yacht visits when the yachts are back on the coast, in between guest trips and things like that. But it can be anything really. It can be anything from writing up the reports, from checking the accounts, from doing the budget, from catching up with captains, to listening to them, being a bit of an agony aunt or uncle for issues that they might have on board. Because at the end of the day, it's quite a lonely job, I think, for captains. Even if they have an oppo who might be on leave, or, they like to bounce things off to make decisions and things like that. I think it's very varied. And that's the thing I love about it. Always learning. We were just talking this morning about how you think you know the job, and then sort of every other day there's something new that you've got to learn that you've never come across before.
Yeah.
We have great resources in a WhatsApp group at Burgess to help us with that. It's like, has anyone done X, Y, Z before?
Yeah.
And usually you'll find somebody that has.
Yeah. No, and that's one of the things that I love about. I mean, I've been at Burgess nearly 13 years now, and I'm still learning every day. I get asked questions, and I still sometimes have to stop and think. And wow, COVID was a really good example of that, wasn't it? I mean, the whole planet struggled with that, I know, but it was a very different experience in yachting, because everything still kept going, but in a very different way, and it was having to think outside the box. I love it.
It was uncharted territory.
Yeah, very much so. Very much so.
And we, during that time, I had captains call me up saying, "Oh, we're getting kicked out of the port. What do I do?" And honestly, nobody knew. I certainly didn't know. And then it's scrambling with them to try and find out what the options were. That was steep learning curve.
Do you find as yacht managers you all kind of lean on each other? Do you talk regularly, ideas, and talk through problems to problem solve?
Absolutely.
Or do you work with the captains rather than with each other?
It depends. I mean, the captains are an excellent resource themselves, so it depends which way the question's going. But if they're coming to us and asking something that they don't know, then obviously, if I don't know it already, then we have the team at Burgess, whether that be compliance, whether it it be an accountant. We also have other yacht managers for the particularly niche questions who might be able to advise, and then obviously external advisors as well. Particularly, we can't really advise on VAT, which is something that changes constantly. So we're relying on other companies to help us with that.
So as a yacht manager, I know obviously we have different teams within Burgess. So we've got the crew team, we've got compliance team, we've got technical team. But as yacht manager, do you have to have an understanding of how all of those areas work?
Absolutely. And I think, although I'm not an accountant myself, knowing how to get the information out that is being asked of me is the key thing. I might not be in charge of processing the invoices or even doing the accounts, but when an owning team wants data analysis, for example, I'm in the best place to work out why they've spent this much on this in that year when it wasn't in the budget, for example, because I'm the one involved in the daily operations. But equally, I think I started out in compliance, and I think that's a very good basis for going forward as a yacht manager, because you understand the importance of the legislation and what the requirements are. Again, it's not something I do on a daily basis now, so it's constantly changing. So it's great that I have the team behind me to help me with that, because I can't keep on top of all the changes in legislation. That's what they do.
No, and that's why those teams are all there, essentially to support you as the yacht manager, isn't it? Exactly. So because you have daily communications with the owning companies as well?
Yep, owning companies, sometimes owners direct. It depends really on what the setup is and the size of the vessel. I think the bigger the vessel, usually the more levels there are between yourself and the owner. Under 500s, I'm frequently talking to the owners themselves.
What's your favourite part of the job?
Favourite part of the job is the variety. Yeah, I think we've already touched on that. It's no 2 days are the same, always learning. I like the travel to a certain extent as well. That's not to say that it's particularly glamorous necessarily. We're often in shipyards and negotiating contracts and things like that. But it's a good opportunity to meet the captains in person if you haven't already, or catch up with them if you have, and, build on the relationships, not only with the shipyards, but definitely with the crew.
I don't know if I'm allowed to ask you this, but you don't have to answer it, but what's your least favourite part of the job?
I think the least favourite part of the job, when things are really tough and you're dealing with stressed crew, stressed captain, or worse, maybe a stressed owning team, is trying to navigate that. It's trying to really listen to what they want, what they might be saying in between the lines, and delivering on that. I think the thing with yacht management is it's very boutique. Like, it's not an off-the-shelf product that one size fits all, because we're dealing with a personality and a person behind that, and it's adapting to that person. So what we offer to one client might not be the same as what we offer to another because of their needs. So yeah, I think that can be tough. It's trying to figure out what they really want. It's learning. It's part of the challenge. Also, one of my favourite parts is the getting to know people and building the relationship, but it can also be the toughest part. When things aren't going well, it's very tough to navigate. And sometimes there are people who you never crack and never manage to get over the line, and that's tough as well, because you can't just walk away. You've got to continue managing the vessel and trying to make it work, and never really getting anywhere.
Yeah. Do you have to have specific training in some of the softer skills? Because we talk a lot about mental health training on board the yacht. So do you have to have like mental health training, communication training, having difficult conversations training as a yacht manager?
I think we should have more of that. I would definitely like to get more involved in the mental health training side of things. Sometimes when you're dealing with accidents and incidents, for example, I think it would be better to have some more training on that side. But, I've had media training before, but actually, marketing would do a lot of that. What that would involve with first response, because obviously with social media now, incidents, they might reach other people before you've even heard about it yourself. It is that quick. But yeah, I think we've got a good support network at Burgess, which helps with that. We've got some good people that can advise. We've got, like yourself, you're a trained mental health first aider. Is that what they're called?
Correct. Yes.
So if we're not able to do it ourselves, we've got some good trained people who are able to fill in on those roles. But yeah, as with anything, more training is always good. We do a lot of emergency response training with clients as well to deal with different incidents, which helps.
Yeah. I think all of these skills are useful for day-to-day life as well, not just for work. Communications and having difficult conversations is a skill that I think training that everyone should have. But anyway, what are the common misconceptions about the yacht manager, the role of the yacht manager?
It depends who you're talking to. If you're talking to somebody outside of the industry, they think it's glamorous. And I have to say that it's not really. There are roles within yachting that are probably more glamorous, but I tend to really play down. If I'm speaking to somebody who doesn't know anything about the industry, I'll keep it very vague and say that I work in maritime or something similar, because otherwise the second you start saying super yachts, they're like, wow, that sounds amazing. But obviously I think yacht management, we do quite a lot of the grey behind a lot of other departments, and the legislation side of things isn't exactly the most glamorous. And while there is travel, like I mentioned before, it's to shipyards, or it could be to not the most glamorous places.
Not always the Caribbean then, Lorraine, no?
Yeah, not always the Caribbean. But also I think a common misconception is that it fills the 9 to 6, time slot, because I think one of the challenges is time management, and we might be on a certain time zone. Our yacht might be 8 hours behind, 5 hours behind. The captain might need to reach you outside of the working hours. They might need to reach you every weekend. And it's being open to that. Sometimes it's essential. Sometimes it can wait till Monday. But I think accepting that you're not necessarily going to have every weekend off, or you might get disturbed in the evening. I think that goes for most roles in yachting, to be honest. It's not just yacht management, but it doesn't necessarily fit into the 9 to 5, Monday to Friday time slot.
No. And what about coming ashore as a yacht manager? I think that there is a belief that you have to have a master's ticket or an engineer's ticket, but actually, that training is available to any role on board a boat.
Yeah, I think when I came into yacht management, that's certainly how it was viewed. Yacht managers had to hold an officer's ticket. And even when I joined Burgess, actually, they hadn't updated the job description. And I remember being handed the job description saying, oh, well, this doesn't cover you, but don't worry, we're rewriting it. Because at Burgess, obviously, we have definitely got lots of paths to being a yacht manager, whether that is from coming ashore from being at sea, or whether it's working your way up from yacht management assistant through the associate program to yacht manager with the training in-house. Then there are lots of different options. And I think times have changed in that sense. I think there's more people coming into the role, so, who might not necessarily have even been to sea, but have spent the time learning all the aspects. And I think it's improving in that sense. There are lots of different ways of coming in. And just because you've been at sea and understand yachting, you've still got to learn the yacht management role from a shore-based perspective. So, yeah, I think we have we have good resources and lots of different diverse experience that can help people with that, no matter what background they come from.
Yeah, I think essentially it's all about experience, isn't it? Obviously, qualifications are great, but experience are what really cements your suitability for that role.
Absolutely.
Definitely. Because you like you said earlier, you're dealing with so many weird and wacky incidents and events and, situations that only experience will help you navigate and help other people get through that.
Yeah, absolutely. You can be a bit of a shock to the system the first time you deal with a particular thing. And you may never deal with the same two things twice, but you might be like, somebody else has, or dealt with something similar, and this is what the approach was. So yeah, there are lots of different ways to learn the role. I think at Burgess, the YMA role is a very good basis. Anything in compliance as well. And also coming ashore, even if you don't know if you want to go into yacht management, it's a good foot in the door. It's a good way of learning the basics of the industry if you then want to transition, for example, into charter or brokerage.
There are a lot of mentorship programs as well, aren't there? Did you have a mentor coming ashore, or?
I was really lucky in that respect. So in the compliance, I had the head of compliance she'd been an engineer at sea, and she was great at putting me forward for training me herself, and really teaching me the fundamentals of the compliance side of things. And then later I had a mentor who helped bridge the gap from compliance into being a yacht manager. So I instead of associate, as we call them at Burgess, I was a junior yacht manager, and I did it under the supervision of a mentor. He'd offered to be my mentor to my boss so that I could sort of progress. So that was great. And then it was funny, joining Burgess, about a year into being at Burgess, I was approached about being a mentor. And I remember thinking, wow, I didn't even feel that experience that I could be a mentor. But then you realise sort of the people that you're then talking to. It felt like a full circle moment, like giving back.
Yeah, no, which is lovely. And it's lovely that as an industry that is something that is being developed and is getting better, the whole mentorship program, because it is such a niche and varied and quirky job, to have that support available. I think it's so important. And what about coming ashore I think it's fair to say that the yacht manager's role traditionally has been very male dominated. How did you find that coming ashore as a yacht manager as a woman?
Yeah, it was a challenge in the beginning, I must admit. I think particularly because I didn't have a ticket and I'd come from the interior, and there were not many women at all as yacht managers at the time. And I remember doing ISM audits and captains really questioning me, I think because I was younger as well, making me give them a sort of verbal CV about why I was qualified to be there. It would be like, so what have you done in the run up to this? I.e., why are you here questioning me about my role on the bridge when you've never been on the bridge? And having to justify myself, or at least that's how it felt. Yeah. Obviously, I think times have changed a lot since then, and we have more and more female crew throughout the yachting industry, particularly in officer roles and above, captains. So that has also spilled over into shore-based roles as well. One of our yacht managers here, she was an unlimited officer for the watch, and then we've also got yacht managers that have come through the Burgess program. They are homegrown, as they like to say. So I think it's great. It's great to see more women in the role, and I think the more women that there are, the more that will be encouraged to seeing that as a potential path for them to follow.
Brilliant. Amazing. Yeah. So, for anyone listening on board a yacht right now who wants to come ashore, there's so many opportunities. And I think the main point from today is, from me anyway, is that don't feel limited by either your role on board, the qualifications that you hold, or your gender. It's experience, isn't it? Don't feel afraid to have a go.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, we would be always keen to speak to anyone who was keen, who showed a bit of willing, who was interested in the role. Don't be afraid to reach out if you think that you would like to get into. We're always looking for good people.
The other thing that I love about working at Burgess, and I'm sure it's the same in other yacht management companies as well, but that opportunity to diversify your role and actually have projects outside of the day-to-day yacht manager's role or crew manager's role. And you're very heavily involved in the Sustainable Seas initiative, aren't you?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, like you say, it's great that you're not always set in, it depends on your workload, but you're not always fixed with just managing the yachts. If you want to get involved with a work group or a project, there's always loads of things open or loads of options available for you to get stuck in. And the Sustainable Seas initiative was originally started as an objective, I believe, with the head of yacht management, but he wanted to create something along with our ESG program to deliver to all of our yachts. And we based our Sustainable Seas handbook off the crew environmental guidelines, which was backed by the Water Revolution Foundation. And we've implemented that alongside our ISM in the same format as an optional objective for yachts, but also to try and get the conversation started, to try and get people talking about it, to try and get yacht crew thinking about it. And I think there's a massive shift in the industry towards sustainability and net zero, etc. That is showing the way that things are going to go. And this is one of the small changes that crew can make on board.
It's been very well received as well, isn't it?
Yeah, we've had a great team working on it, but also particularly younger crew, it seems, are they're very passionate about this. And they're the ones that we're suggesting maybe that you nominate an environmental representative on board. And they're the ones that are looking at small changes that you can make on board to work towards a bigger picture. And yeah, I think the feedback has been surprising in a good way. I think people are engaging in a way that I didn't think that they would. So yeah, it's very promising.
Well, I think it's an industry that from the outside is not perceived as a particularly environmentally friendly industry, but it is, in everyday life, it's the small things that we can all do that do make a difference. And actually the small things that you guys have come up with in this handbook is actually quite significant. And as a yacht crew member, to feel like you're giving back and actually have the opportunity to feed back to you guys as well on extra ideas is brilliant. It's like allowing them to be involved in the project.
Exactly. We've had some brilliant tips from crew who are doing things on board that we weren't even aware of, or using a particular supplier or a particular app maybe that helps with the CO2, in terms of delivery of products on board, and we're able to feed that back into the manual. So yeah, we love hearing back from yachts about what they're already doing towards sustainability, and equally we like to share what the industry best practice, let's say, and just trying to make all the small changes build up to one big change.
Yeah, and it's a topic where we all learn from each other, isn't it? So, okay, anyone listening right now wants to get into yacht management, what advice do you have for them?
I would say don't be afraid to reach out to the companies themselves. Certainly the networking at the shows, or even coming into the offices and trying to get an appointment with people to speak to. I would always be open to meeting with people who are interested in coming ashore, for example. Don't be afraid to put yourself out there and send your CV, try and meet people in person, and just get talking to people who have made that transition.
And actually, a yacht show's a good place for crew who are thinking about coming ashore to talk to yacht management teams and charter teams. And
yeah, I mean, it is a very busy time of the year, I must admit. But if you can get hold of somebody and speak to them on the stand, we always have yacht managers on the stand, a floating yacht manager to answer questions. If you can get somebody who's on the stand, then they'd always be happy to give you 5 minutes of the time and discuss the role with you.
Amazing. Okay. Well, if anyone is thinking about coming ashore, check out the Burgess website, because there is a section on roles at Burgess, and just get in touch. Use your connections. There's always someone that you can talk to, and don't be afraid. Yeah. So, Lorraine, this year, new for 2026, we are introducing a quick fire question round.
Okay.
Well, we're just going to fire some quick fire questions at you to really get to know you. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
You tense? I'm tense.
A little.
Okay. If you could spend 1 week on any yacht, past or present, which one are you choosing?
I know you said quick fire, so my answer should be quick, but I wouldn't choose a yacht. I would go for destination. So I'm normally a lakes or mountains kind of person anyway, but I would choose a yacht that is located in a place that I haven't visited. So I think for me, it would be destination over yacht. So probably somewhere like the Philippines or remote Indonesia, for example. Do some diving.
That's good. No, that is good. Coffee order when things get hectic.
Pretty dull, I'm afraid. I like a cappuccino or a flat white. I think the thing for me is it's got to be really hot. It's got to be quite strong. And I want like a European-sized coffee. I don't want a pint of coffee.
Yeah, you say that, but also European-sized coffee. The little espressos, which is like one, it's like a shot.
No, but like a European cappuccino, not like a Starbucks.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, we don't do coffee as well here in the UK. But anyway, what's the most unexpectedly useful skill you've picked up in yacht management?
I would say it's probably keeping calm in crisis. And this is I didn't know I had the skill until somebody said to me that they thought she was expecting a baby, and she's like, I think you'd be great in the delivery room. And I was like, really, me? But actually, I think it is about, even if you are not calm on the inside, it's about giving the appearance, like the swan analogy, giving the appearance of being calm on the outside. So if there's a crisis on board, or there's been an incident, or there's somebody who's very stressed, it's trying to keep calm, trying to think fast and solve it without breaking the appearance of being calm. And I think that's something I've learned from yacht management.
You do have a very calm aura. Your go-to reset activity after a chaotic day?
Okay, well, I think it's either going to bed really early with a book. That's very dull, I know.
Favourite thing to do.
As early as possible, and not feeling guilty about it. Or, catching up with friends, depending on what the chaos of the day had been. If I'm not too tired. Having a good social catch-up with some friends who are like a tonic to...
Yes.
Letting all the stress go and... that basically.
Love that, yes. And the last one, if you weren't in yachting at all, what do you think you'd be doing instead?
I would have done one of two things. I think for a long time, all my friends were working in TV production, so I was determined to go to London and work in TV production, until I think I realised that being on a runner's, entry-level runner's wage in London would be a bit of a hit from after having worked on board. But I toyed with being a teacher for a long time. I spent a lot of time researching PGCE courses, never actually made it back to the UK, and here we are.
You'd have made a very good teacher. Again, that cool, calm aura would have been very good as a teacher. Well, thank you, Lorraine. I've loved chatting with you, and I've loved getting to know a little bit more about your day, because I know we do work together quite a lot, but only on the crewing side, obviously. So it's interesting to hear all the other sides of it, and the advice that you've given to anyone listening who wants to come ashore. Thank you so much.
An absolute pleasure.